What up YouTube? My name is Marvin and today we're going to be checking out the Joyo Badass, also known as the Badass. So Joyo sent this to me along with a couple other things. Click around, you'll see some links. This is the bass version of their Bantamp series. For the longest, I've actually been wanting to buy this and do a review and see, what it can do. And Joyo was nice enough to just send it to me. And I have not opened it because I've been trying to wait to get my first actual reaction to playing it. So, yeah. I'm sure that everything inside the box is going to be the same as the other Joyo Bantamps, but let's do a quick unboxing. Manual. Foot switch, which controls the compression and the, switches between normal and compression. Power cable. Foot switch cable, a speaker cable. Oh, okay. So the power brick is actually a bit meatier than the other one. So the regular Joyo one's is smaller. This is much bigger. So, all right, cool. Ooh, that's such a nice green color. There you go. The box smells good too. All right, let's get this out the plastic. This is cool. This is cool. All right, here you go. Here's a look. If my camera would focus, there you go. This is the Joyo Badass 50-watt amp. This is a 1-channel amp instead of the 2 channels that you see in the other Joyos. This is actually a full 3-band EQ. You got low, mid, and high. You have a compression knob, gain knob, and a volume knob. You got this switches between normal and compression, which is also controlled on the back via the foot switch. Your Bluetooth switch on the back. You've got an effects loop, headphone output, foot switch input, and your speaker output, which is a minimum 4 ohm load. I'm gonna connect this up with my Mesa cabinet. That's the Traditional Powerhouse. I don't remember the name. The same bass cabinet I've been using. And yeah, so yeah. Got my Joyo connected. This is actually 8 ohms. So the Joyo won't be outputting the full 50 watts. It's actually going to be outputting, I guess, around 25. In the manual, it says that the Joyo outputs less with a higher impedance. So if it's higher than 4, it's going to output less. That makes sense. Most amplifiers are like that. I kind of wish it was going to output the full 50. I'm going to be using my Ibanez SRX2EX2 as this has an active preamp which won't be active. And these pickups are passive, but they're very high output. I find that this bass is very responsive to how hard and soft I play with my hands and where I have my volume. And being that this has a tube preamp, I think that'll showcase what this amp can do very well. And here we go. Sounds pretty good. Gain's kind of high. I'm gonna bring the gain down a little bit. Let's see how clean we can get this amp. Let's see if we can get it even cleaner. Okay, so the bass amp definitely has its own tone. As I brought the gain down, it brought down the, the extra oomph that the tube gives. In comparison, I'll show you what it'll sound like with it all the way up. So you hear that? It's like fluffier, bigger, thicker, tubier, warmer. whatever buzzword you want to use, that sounds great. I like it. And I'm still picking pretty soft. If I start to dig in, let's see. That's nice. It's very tubey and warm, and it's like smooth. It's not an aggressive kind of overdrive like you might think from like a Terra bass head, where it's got that grindy in your face kind of overdrive. If I had to guess, it's kind of old school. I haven't played too many bass amps that are fully tube. The only one I could really come off of is my Mesa Prodigy. This sounds completely different. I don't know. It just sounds really good. I really like how this sounds. This is cool. I'm gonna bring the gain down. I'll leave it here. Let's mess with the EQ. Let's just see how the EQ affects everything. So EQ doesn't seem to do too much. It doesn't have a really wide range. The treble doesn't seem to add a lot of treble, but it seems to cut a lot of treble. So if I was to play a slapping riff, see what I mean? I feel like the frequencies that Joyo decided to manipulate with this high control are exactly where a bassist should be manipulating. Some bass amps give you a little bit too much control. They might give you like an extra EQ on board, or like a high, mid, and a high, where you don't really need to be messing with all that stuff. You just need the basic highs in reference to a bassist in a band. And I think the way that the highs are set, I think it's actually a good range. You don't really need a lot of highs on a bass. Unless you're playing a lot of slap stuff, then maybe this isn't for you if you want to slap, but we haven't gotten to the compression yet. Personally, me, I like having more highs in my bass sound, but that's exactly why I play with active basses, so I could do that on my own. The lows seem to be set up well. If I try boosting it. And bring it all the way down. See, some bass amps, when you drop all of the lows or whatever, you know, that side of the EQ, it gets really anemic. This still sounds like a bass amp. It just sounds like you cut a couple of the lows. I'm gonna try scooping the mids, boosting the treble and the bass. Pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. All right, let's check out the compression now. So the foot switch that comes with this amp engages and disengages the compression, which when engaged, the light will turn red so that you know you're using the compression. The compression amount is controlled by this knob here, which I'm assuming if you boost it all the way up, that's more compressed. Yeah, that's definitely more compressed, and I actually like it. It's very smooth. Let's bring the compression low. I'll say one thing, I'm pretty picky about how I use compression because I like to play a lot of slap bass, especially when I was playing in a band. So compressor is almost key when it comes to a bass player. Even if you're not slapping or anything, it really helps to even out your sound when you're playing live, especially if you have a 5-string or a 6-string bass, so that all the notes come in evenly. And it's really cool that this amp actually comes with its own onboard compression. I don't exactly understand why the foot switch controls that, because I feel that most bassists will probably just leave it on or leave it off. As me, personally, I always leave compression on when I'm playing. So for me, having it on a foot switch, I mean, I guess it makes sense if you want to control your dynamics remotely, but I think they could have done something else. Honestly, my first impression of this amp is great. I really like it. There's a couple of things right now that I can think of that I feel could be improved, but I'll get to that at the end of the video. I'm just gonna play through some different settings and I'll wrap it up from there. Okay, I think that's enough with the Joyo Badass. I really, really like it. Now, I have to go through what I like and a couple of things I don't like. The things that I do like, I love the price. If I remember correctly, these are $189.99, just under $200 US, which is really good. I love the size, I love the form factor, the color, the tone. It really sounds good. It's a very simple bass tone, but an overall really good bass tone. It's not something that you can expect to have 1,000 different sounds in one. I've found, at least with a lot of bass amps that I've tried, they seem to have a very baked in tone. They know what they want to sound like and they kind of just stay true to that. This is no exception, but it's a good thing. I actually really like it. It takes out a lot of the guesswork for a bassist because they can just put it up, turn it on, and it'll sound great. You know what I mean? You adjust the EQ to your taste, but overall this amp sounds really good. I really like the way that the tube interacts with the bass and with my playing, and you can see if I played lower or harder or anything, you can hear the difference, and that's the key. That's the main reason you'd want a hybrid tube amp, because you have the tube in there for your dynamics to get that preamp sound, the main sound, but you don't really need the power tubes to add their color. I mean, they do add a color and a feel, but I mean, this is maybe, I don't even know if it's like 5 pounds. It's so light and it sounds really good. My Mesa, on the other hand, which is a light tube amp, don't get me wrong, is like 30 something pounds. And that's really light for a bass amp. Some of these bass amps can get to like 60 pounds. And I think some of them are like 80 pounds if I remember correctly. In that regard, amazing. Here's a couple of things that I'm not a big fan of. Number one is the wattage. I know that for something this small, 50 watts is great, but personally as a bassist, I know that 50 watts generally isn't going to be loud enough when you're playing shows, but it's not exactly like this is designed for shows. I don't think it's meant for that. I think it's meant mainly for someone playing at home. And if you're playing at home, 100 watts is more than enough you'd need. You could even practice with a band with 100 watts. This at 50 watts, I'm not really sure if it's loud enough, and I'm actually going to test it to see how loud it can get through a proper bass cab that's actually at 4 ohms so I can hear the full 50 watts. So stay tuned for that and I'll let you guys know. I think the wattage is good for home use, but for shows, if you're looking for something portable to bring to a gig, this probably isn't it. Another thing I'm not too fond of is the choice to have a foot switch control the compression. I think that the dip switch would have been more than enough. Maybe if they wanted, they could have had a clean channel and an overdrive channel, something kind of like the, not exactly like the Terra bass, but something that's more like in your face and aggressive, because I really do like how this is set up, but you know, having that versatility of the 2 channels like the other Bantamps would be nice. That's my personal opinion, but I do like the setup overall. It's not like there's anything wrong with it, but just if I had to change anything, that's what I would do. One major thing that I think they should do if they wanted to make this an amp for people to gig with is to add a DI out. Almost every bass amp that I have come across playing gigs has some form of a DI out. I mean, I feel like at 50 watts, that would have been fine. If you had a DI out and it was 50 watts, then you could send your signal to front of house and you could use the speaker or whatever cab you're using just to monitor yourself. You wouldn't need the stage volume. I mean, maybe for your bandmates, but they could hear it through the PA as well. So I think that the one major upgrade this could have used is definitely having a DI out. Ideally, you know, we could use this for shows. It's so small, it's portable, you want to use it for shows. And you kind of can't. I forgot to mention that I didn't actually try the headphone out, and I'm planning to do that later in another test. I actually forgot in all my Joyo videos, so I think I'm just gonna make a video showing what it's like using that. I don't typically practice with headphones, so that's kind of why I forget to do that. But I do want to see if the headphone out can be used as a DI out, because if it can, that would be amazing. That would be really cool to see how that could work, and maybe you could use that as a show. Maybe it's not exactly the XLR DI out that people have, but if that works in that regard, then who cares? I already tried the Bluetooth when I was getting the volume set up, so I'm not gonna show it. If you don't know how it works, check out one of my other Joyo videos. I showed how to use it in 2 of them. This one is no exception. It's the exact same steps. In terms of build quality, just like the other Joyos I've tried, the build quality is amazing, especially considering how much you're paying for these. I have no problem thinking that it's gonna last a while. I've actually had my Jackman for, I think, 2 years. I did the video in October 2020, and it's never crapped out on me. It's been perfectly fine. These are the same size, by the way, if you're interested. They're exactly the same size. So that's pretty cool that they, you know, crammed all of that into the same size as one of these. Overall, I would recommend this amp for a bass player that needs something to record at home and to practice at home. If you think of it this way, a lot of bass players that, let's say they're doing shows, they probably have a head and a cab setup. And I say that because a lot of venues will supply the cab and you would just bring your head. The bass player has a 200, 300 watt, 1000 watt head. You know, trying to play that at home, you have to keep your volume at 1. And there's not a lot of range when you're actually bringing it up to get it to normal volume. And this is even worse when it comes to a tube amp. This one being a hybrid and only being 50 watts, you have a really nice range to play with, so you can really choose how loud or how quiet you want it to be. And when it comes to recording, that's the perfect volume, so you're not disturbing your neighbors. It's different with guitar amps where you can have 20 watts and, you know, it sounds loud, but 50 watts in bass or 100 watts, it's not the same. You need more power to get those bass frequencies going. And I feel that 50 watts in that regard is a very nice balance where it's not overwhelmingly loud, because bass frequencies travel through walls and everything way more different than guitar. I feel like if you can get it loud enough to record so it doesn't have to shake the whole house, the wattage is actually good in that regard. Overall, I'd recommend this highly for someone looking for tube tone at a nice budget. It's only 200 bucks, less than 200 bucks. And it looks cool. You can play your music through it, so definitely perfect for a bassist trying to practice at home. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, leave a comment on what you thought about this Joyo Badass, whatever you want to call it, and what you thought about it. And if you have your own bass amps that you like of this caliber, they're super portable with tubes, but not fully tube or whatever. And subscribe for more content, because yeah, you should just do that. Thank you for watching. Take care, stay safe, and have a great day.